then eventually you end up with like implanted mantis blades, and you can fly, and your entire jaw can pull off so that you can feed yourself an entire hamburger at once.
Implying I can't already.
Like stuff like that. And it really
2 hamburgers.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. You are listening to the Idiots 3 RPG podcast, and we are playing Pitch Slap, the competitive tabletop design show where we pitch ideas for games and promptly tear them apart. My name is Jack Stone, and with me I have...
Hello, I am AJ.
Hello, I am Duncan.
And today's theme for the game is Cyberpunk. And we are going to be rating each other, or rather I am going to be rating Mr. AJ and Mr. Duncan over here on a few different categories, including design, novelty, funness, and the requirement is Cyberpunk, but basically if it's not Cyberpunk, Cyberpunk? Cyberpunks sleep in Cyberbunks. If it's not Cyberpunk, I'm just going to fail you instantly. So
Oh, wow.
I hope it's Cyberpunk enough, guys. And I hope you've understood what Cyberpunk is. Real Cyberpunk hours.
I literally, just to make sure I couldn't be penalized on a technicality, I googled define cyberpunk. I'm like, my anxiety just went nuts. I'm like, he's going to get me on some fucking teeny little technicality that was like established in the 50s.
If there's one thing I like to gatekeep, it is Cyberpunk. All right, okay. Yeah, so I suppose we should decide who is going first.
We don't have a role. We've gone through so many role for
No,
initiative
we're not
gags.
doing roles. Instead, this is going to be a little bit more qualitative. Would you rather, or what part of your body would you most desire to have replaced with a cybernetic?
Oh,
Or what cybernetic enhancement?
it's between the thumb and the testicle.
Okay. What does a cyber testicle
Callback.
do?
What does a cyber testicle do?
Yeah.
Play when they drop, they play disco music.
Nice. So when you get, but what if you get scared and they suck up? Do they make a different noise?
It makes a record scratch
No.
sounds.
The obvious answer is, like, the obvious joke answer is to go for the penis. If I was to be serious...
You always go for the penis.
Always. If I was to be serious, I would choose hands. Because, what if you had, like, a go-go gadget fucking, thing in every single finger, you know? Or you could go the I forgot what it's called. What was the anime where their hand splits apart and they do the mega typing? Fuck, I can't
Anime was
remember.
a mistake.
Yeah.
Ban anime 2020.
Failed.
All right,
reference.
Jack, it's in your court. Hands or testicles?
I'm going to go with hands.
Boo!
I want to go with hands.
All right.
Why hands?
Yes.
Because you're just so pretty, Duncan.
Thank you. That's how I get everywhere in life.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I'm actually super excited to bring this game because this is, every so often I'll invent a game for this show, and I'm just like, you know what? It's actually not bad. I think that falls into the category of not bad. So, This game is called Cyrus, Cybervirus.
Ooh.
It is
Nice.
both a game about a cyber virus, and the game is itself also a virus.
Okay.
So here is the slightly extended elevator pitch. The context. This is a one-shot RPG. You could expand it into more, and that will become very clear how once we get into it. But I've kind of developed it as a one-shot. The context is that the BLURB Corporation has created an artificially intelligent entity called.
Always a good idea.
Yes. And that has escaped through a dimensional rift
Okay.
to a different world.
Sweet.
That world is any other RPG you like.
Oh, okay.
Cyrus, the mechanics in Cyrus are designed to infect another game.
Ooh.
So basically,
okay.
you take another game and make it Cyberpunk.
What is this? A crossover episode?
Oh, there we go. There's the reference.
Well,
Wait.
it's funny you mentioned crossover because I've got a little scenario for us, and it may involve a previous Idiots 3 RPG game.
I'm excited.
God.
I hope it's one of mine.
We're doing a time jump, guys.
Yes, not time jump, dimensional jump. So the players are they also work for BLURB Corporation. They are what's known as retrievers. and there's different classes of retriever called roles, and you're basically tasked with following Cyrus into the realm and either capturing or destroying it.
So can my role be golden? I can be a golden retriever.
Oh,
you might want to rethink that name.
Was that a joke? Let us know in the comments if that was a joke.
That a joke? Give me a rating out of 7 for that joke as well.
It can't go as high as 10. It wasn't good enough.
How about we go some nitty gritty? So
yeah, let's do nitty gritty.
How does it infect the other games?
Wait. The real nitty gritty. How do you spell Cyrus?
Cyrus.
Oh, like the name Cyrus.
Like Billy Ray.
Yes. The cyber virus.
Continue.
So nitty gritties. AJ, could you repeat your question, sir? Can you remember it?
How does it interact with the other games?
Sure. So Cyrus interacts with other RPGs in a couple of different ways. The first way is that it adds new mechanics and a couple of new stats and abilities and stuff. So you, as the players, aren't a part of the native world. So you basically bring your own equipment, your own abilities. Because it's cyberpunk, there's augmetics and there's nanotechnology and bioenhancements, all sorts of cool stuff that you bring with you.
Cool.
And you can call for more. This makes you very overpowered compared to natives if you went into a fantasy. So if you infected D&D, the retrievers are probably going to be ludicrously overpowered. So the story always starts a while, kind of almost Samurai Jack-esque, like it was a fantasy world that has now been morphed by Cyrus. Mm-hmm. And so you are going to fight a lot of enhanced and changed and controlled entities, including controlled people and robots that Cyrus has created and all sorts of shit like that.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one thing. You bring your own stats and equipment with you. You don't have to, but you'll probably get seriously fucked up if you don't. The other side is there is a set of... Cyrus doesn't have any stats of its own. It doesn't have any dice rolls of its own. It doesn't have any you must plus or minus your stat this amount kind of specifics. It has guidance on how to put the requirements of Cyrus into the other game, and then you just use that game's mechanics. So for example, if we infect D&D with Cyrus, we will be using D&D's mechanics.
Right.
So we're going to be using a lot of D20s. And there's guidance within Cyrus to help the GM, known as the CEO, to...
that fits.
Cyberpunk. There's guidance in Cyrus to guide the GM, the CEO, on what the bonuses or what the dice rolls or whatever should be based on the game's native mechanics and what we've brought to it. So there's kind of two parts to it. A lot of it is going to come down to CEO discretion based on the guidance from Cyrus, and that's simply because I've not made this game infect particular RPGs. I've made it quite loose so that it can infect whatever one you want to play. So if you're familiar with D&D, infect D&D is like a one-off adventure. Mm-hmm. If you're familiar with Honey Heist, then infect Honey Heist and do that instead, you know?
Robo Bears.
I'd love to see some Robo Cyberpunk Bears.
Yeah, so Cyrus, you bring along a lot of stuff from what's known as Prime Earth. That's our original place, Prime Earth, and the game is called the Native. Is just either called Native or Host game, and you just bring stuff with you, and then you can meet characters in the world. They've either been augmented or not, depending how fucked up they are. There are rules for playing a native class in Cyrus. And there are rules to augment natives yourself if you want to. I've not brought any of that with me, but if you play D&D, you still desperately want to be a wizard with like a cybernetic arm. There are guidelines for being a native and guidelines for upgrading people with new enhancements.
Cool.
Yeah, so let me walk you through the basics of setup and how I would approach infecting a host game with Cyrus, because it's always known as infecting, because that's thematic.
It's cyberpunk, but as an STI.
Yes. So the process basically is you would set up probably your plot first to a degree. Obviously, you don't want it to be too low, so you might just get your context ready. All the players, the retrievers, have to create they choose the role they want to play as from Cyrus. or choose to be a native, in which case they just choose whatever native roles are available. Step 2 is you create your sort of roleplay elements, like your background, your physical specifications, whatever. At this point, you will have an idea of augmetics and shit already, so if you want to weave that into your backstory, you can. And then step 3 is to create a character in the mechanics that you have in the host mechanic, and that is sort of appropriate for the character that you've made. So if you want to be a tank type character, a fighter, a warrior, barbarian, or whatever, you would probably choose the Cyrus role of Centurio. Centurios are the tanks of Cyrus. They're also the leaders of the group, the captain. You'd be like, cool, I want to be a Centurio. Here's the Centurio stuff. So there's abilities and augmetics and shit that'll be available to you. I think you'll be excited to some of the customization options. You would choose, okay, I want to be a Centurio because I know that's a tank. Here's my character background. Now you have to build a tank in D&D. Let's keep using D&D. Yeah. So you probably build a fighter or a paladin or whoever. Okay. If you're coming from Prime Earth, you don't get the magic and shit that's available to natives. If you were a native, you would, of course, but you'll probably be at a stats disadvantage because augmetics are extremely buffy.
All right, so you pick your class that you're going for, or your archetype, and then you build it in whatever the host game is.
Yes.
So what does Cyrus give you on top of that?
So the game will give you stats because you need stats to be able to interact in the world. The host game. Okay. Cyrus does have its own, you will only bring one stat from Cyrus. Oh, okay. Which is called Firewall. Firewall is your ability to resist the effects of hacking and mind control. And
so you have strength, dex, charisma, Firewall.
Firewall is a new stat. It's specifically designed for Prime Earth. It's essentially like a mental resistance to Prime Earth influence. Okay. If you are talking about resistance to, say, magic or persuasion without a Prime Earth influence, right, you can just use the native stats. Okay. It's only for Prime Earth. There's Earth. Oh. Earth. Welcome to Earth. We're from Prime Earth.
Oh, Jesus.
It's all of Cyrus, and Firewall doesn't have, you don't get a 5 if you're a Centurio or whatever. It just says, the language in Cyrus is always going to be light, moderate, or heavy, or easy, medium, hard. That sort of language to guide the CEO on what it should be. So, for example, today we're going to play a scenario where Cyrus has infected No Holds Barred from episode 1 of the Idiot Street, because I chose that the mechanics there are reasonably simple, but also fleshed out enough to kind of do combat and persuasion, sort of D&D-esque, because it was a D&D clone. I can admit that now. We're a few episodes down.
Oh, guys, can we take his win away from No Holds Barred, retroactively?
No.
Give us back the Emmy. Give it back.
No.
Give it back.
You can't take it. So what would you like to know next? I got so much of this worked out. Not all it's great. A lot of it will be imbalanced.
Pretty boastful here, guys. Yeah. Let's really try and find something he hasn't thought about.
Yeah, well, it's a one shot. So it's kind of like you're being sent in as mercenaries. Go kill the virus. How do you kill the virus? Do you have to wipe out all the enemies with it, or is it like single mother brain that you have to destroy, and all of it just deactivates?
So it's kind of up to the CEO what kind of plot you want to run. The plot where the context we're going with today is that it's a single brain. If you wanted Cyrus to have distributed almost like Horcrux style entities elsewhere, you could maybe do a longer game. The issue with Cyrus is there's no level up mechanic. So
if it's one shot, you don't really have much time
you wouldn't want a really long campaign because there's no, even if the host has a level up mechanic, Cyrus doesn't, because its abilities don't really change. They're just, this is what you bring. You've got one mission to do. Get it done. Get out. The kind of tagline is get in, don't die, and most importantly of all, keep your costs down.
Right. Okay. Nice. Actually, I was thinking that if it doesn't have a level up mechanic, I could see a very, very fun campaign being based around having consistent set of retrievers that then just dip into other games. Yeah. So you could have a ongoing Prime Earth campaign that is based around dipping into lots of different RPGs. You would need to introduce some form of level up mechanic that could apply to all those different
maybe
game worlds.
Maybe you have some way to add new augmetics or abilities or something.
You buy them because it's Cyberpunk.
Yes.
And you have to buy everything.
Oh yeah.
You have to buy entry into the portal that takes you to these other places.
So there's no
job.
In the current iteration of Cyrus, there's no currency involved with Prime Earth because you are just kitted out by your corporation and sent in. But if you wanted to add like dollary dues,
well, if you like the
cyberbucks credits,
you glanced over kitted out because you set up your character, but then you get enhancements, right?
Yes,
you could easily have currency. You know how you usually spend points.
Yeah,
you can just make it dollars, easy, and then it fits into our genre.
Dollary dues.
I'm gonna buy
creds,
a new
whatever.
arm.
Yes, exactly. And there's a whole list of augmetics, as much as I could think of. And the nice thing is, if you can think of more as the CEO, then just do it.
Cool. Right.
Well, why don't we get into a specific
scenario?
game?
Let's get into a scenario. I really want to play this.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
So there are how many classes? I think there's like 6 or 7 classes, but I've only fleshed out and brought 3.
Okay.
So with every class, every role, I should say, every retriever role has 3 options, with the exception of, I think, 2 of them. So every single role can either be an aug, which is cybernetically augmented, or a nano, which is if your body has nanobots in it, or bio, which is you're genetically engineered and very specially trained. You can attach new augs. There are mechanics to do that, but you don't start with them.
Okay.
The difference is basically your firewall stat changes depending on which one you are. So a bio has an extremely high resistance to has extremely high firewall because there's not really anything to hack or infect, if that makes sense.
Right.
Yep, makes a lot of sense.
A nano has a permanent debuff to firewall that never changes. You start that way, it stays that way, and that is because nanobots can be hacked or can be taken over by other nanobots, but there's not multiple augs, they're not of varying quality, it's just they're in your system.
You are the bot.
Yes. If you're an aug, your firewall is debuffed based on the amount of augs you take. So there's actually no restriction to the amount of augs you have. So if you want to be essentially a robot with like a beating, like if you want to be RoboCop, more robot than not, you can. You'll probably be super tank, but if someone tries to hack you, you are fucked.
Right.
There's no way you're going to be able to resist it because you took too many augs, and every single aug is a potential point of entry into your system, especially if they're shit. So the question for you guys is what role you want to be today. One of you must be the Centurio because the team needs a captain. If you are the captain, you will be the team leader. So if we get into an argument about anything, it will defer to you. In all other cases, it just remains a typical RPG sort of democracy.
I feel like man in charge here should be...
I am definitely...
Do you want to be the Centurio? So let me tell you what you got. First, you're going to have to come up with your own name, your own appearance, your own backstory, whatever you want to come up with on the spot.
Oh, God.
You can. You are... So I'm giving you a piece of paper. On this piece of paper, you're going to see down the left all of the stats from No Holds Barred. So I built you a No Holds Barred character. We've technically got to break the game with Cyrus because it's not a fighting game. It's, but that kind of, if you encounter bards in No Holds Barred, that's going to be a bit of fun. If one of you goes native and is a bard, you're going to have like no fight stat, but you're going to be able to play music really well. And that might be a fun way to interact with Cyrus.
You'll have integrated bagpipes.
You could.
That fire.
If you've brought along a medic who can integrate augs into your system, fucking integrate the bagpipes into your throat. Great.
Yeah.
All right, what are my options there?
So here you go. Have a look. You have 2 options. One option is the Corporate Liaison Officer. Corporate Liaison Officer, or CLO for short, is that you are the guy from Veribus Corp who is in charge of keeping costs down and keeping the mission on track when the gung-ho captain is perhaps off to go and do something wrong. So this game, you don't care about damages to the realm. It's a different dimension. As soon as you're gone, it doesn't matter. So you're not worried about like collateral damage, but you are concerned about keeping Veribus Corp's costs down. It means not wasting. What your stats, as a result, are all about people skills. So this is like charisma and personality and that sort of thing. You are the face of the organization.
Seems useful in No Holds Barred.
Could be, yeah.
Universe. Yeah. What's my other option?
The other option is Venator. Venator is your assassin class. Venators are considered scary even by Veribus Corp standards. You have stealth abilities. You have you're lightly armored, but you are deadly at close range. You can turn invisible, and you've got a little bit of hacking that you can do as well, and that sort of stuff. So your stats are, you're not so good at fighting. Your fight stat isn't that high, but your sneak and your ability to climb and all that sort of stuff is.
Okay.
So the Venator is a nano. The corporate liaison is a bio. Jack, sorry, I forgot to mention it. Jack is an AUG.
Cool. I'm going to go for the CLO because he sounds like a fun guy.
Sure, there's your CLO. I'll keep Venator over here. Sorry, Assassin, you didn't get chosen.
Okay, so I think we should take a second to, number one, character voices and names.
Oh, right.
Introduce yourselves, please. And Jack, you are Captain, and you are, AJ, you are CLO.
Right, okay, my name's Captain Mohawk because it's Cyberpunk, and it wouldn't be a Cyberpunk game without a few Mohawks around, eh? Right.
I am Neil Silverhand. I push my glasses up my nose a lot. That's who I am.
It's
Silverhand.
nice.
I'm not quite living up to my dad's expectations, but I'm doing all right.
Daddy Viribus, you're actually the son of the owner of the corporation.
No, Johnny Silverhand. This is a reference to the original Cyberpunk.
Yeah, which you would know. I'm just going to mark you down.
Uncultured.
On that one.
Uncultured.
Can you mark me up instead? I would like that. Anyway, Neil Silverhand. Okay. I'm here to keep an eye on things. All right, how about let's go through this dimension hole.
So, do either of you have questions about what is on your piece of paper before we start?
Not yet.
Fucking YOLO.
Hello, editing booth AJ here. Before we get into the roleplay, our roles in this scenario were kind of a shit show, so I've added in some sound effects to emphasize our crit miss and success rolls. So let's get back and see how Neil, armed with his punch gun and pocket rocket, and Captain Mohawk with his power maul, get on.
You all may remember Count Varkon, the villain of No Holds Barred. We remember the scenario of No Holds Barred was that he has sent all that world's heroes into another dimension, leaving only the bards. The moment he did this, by opening his rift, he let Cyrus in. And Viribus Corp has sent you guys, go and fucking get him. If you can't retrieve him, you gotta destroy him. So long as it's stopped and you can retrieve the technology, dead or alive. What you know is that Count Varkon has been taken over by Cyrus. So Count Varkon and Cyrus are now the same thing. Basically, he now has a mix of dark magic, he's got his classic villain laugh, and also now horrifying nanobot capabilities. Imagine like Samurai Jack kind of world where there's a bit of a fantasy element, but it's been covered in prime Earth technology. There is robots and devastation, awful stuff everywhere. None of the natives have the means to stop this onslaught, but you guys do. Which brings us to our again, our tagline: get the job done, don't die, keep costs down. You intended to just jump into the world, get to the castle, kick the door in, fuck up Cyrus, bring him back. That hasn't really worked out. The fact that you're down to 2 retrievers means you've lost some team members.
Never liked him anyway.
Yeah, fuck him.
They got bored, had to go home early.
We begin our scenario outside Castle Varkon. Imagine all the spooky, creepy villain castles you've seen. That's it. Now add some cyber augmentation to it, some spotlights. Wandering the grounds are no longer are the like half-witted human guards, but andros, cybernetically enhanced creatures, cybernetically enhanced humans, and all sorts of nasty shit. You need to get in that castle. There are 2 guards in front of the door. One is a synth, one is a human with AUGs. You need to get in the castle. Getting in the castle wins you this scenario. There are 2 guards in the way. Preferably without setting off the alarm, and most importantly, without dying and keeping costs down.
So what do you reckon? What's the approach here?
Well, you got that whole cloaky thing, what I've got as well, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, cloak up, clock him.
I like the idea. Let's take that. I'll walk straight up and distract him. You come around the back.
So, Jack, let's start with you. What's your first action?
Cloak.
Your augmented cloaking device that is built into you just activates, and Neil, you see Captain Mohawk vanish into a shiver.
My turn?
Yes. What's your first action?
Neil's going to walk straight towards the guards and hail them. Hello there. I need to come inside. Hello.
The guards look at each other. One is a synth, one is not. For the synth, imagine a skinless Terminator.
Yuck.
Red eyes,
Ooh.
big grin. The synth takes a few steps forward, and in its robotic voice, "Halt!
Stay where you are.
Oh, hello. Varkon sent for me. I'm the accountant. I'm here to help balance a couple of books for him.
The synth guard pulls out its weapon and says,
Take no steps further.
Oh, I was invited. Varkon said he needed me to help balance some things. There have been some discrepancies. He thinks a synth may be trying to slew some money off into a different account.
What time is your meeting booked?
Now.
Why do you not remember your meeting?
I do remember. It is now. I didn't remember, but I remember now. It's meant to be now.
If it is now, you are late.
You're making me late.
You were late before. The time it will take to get past the checkpoint and up the path and to Varkon will make you late.
Who are you, my mom?
You're gonna come.
I'm gonna clobber them
He's
at this
just
point.
getting really angry at your timing.
Yeah. So, I'm gonna hit the synth with my power maul.
The synth hears you coming, not even looking at you, just reaches back and grabs the shaft of your power maul before you get the skull.
He grabs the
And it's
shaft,
just,
does he?
on the guard, just a few steps back, the human guard is just like, oh fuck, and like draws his weapon as well. So now both of them are now engaged in combat.
All right. Well, I guess I have to take out the synth. He seems like a danger.
Yeah.
All right. I'm gonna pull out my close range gun.
Okay.
Shoot him in the face.
So he
fuck
easily avoids the punch. Easily just still holding Mohawk's power maul, just tilts its body to the right. Just a straight 45-degree angle. Its feet don't move, taking Jack partially with it. And just your punches past it. This is going off to a terrible start. Now we come to the guard who is behind the synth. He has a plasma rifle and he's going to target AJ.
Neil is going to try and dodge this shot.
We did.
Do you have any armor?
Oh, armor, light.
I think you're going to take a hit. We'll say you take a hit in the shoulder.
Pew pew! That'll cost the company's insurers.
Yes, roleplay. I love it. The synth's turn. So the synth, so he's holding your power maul with his right hand, and he just flicks his left, and from within his forearm, rotates out 180 degrees a stun baton that crackles with energy as it comes to life.
I gotta get me one of those.
The synth swings that stun baton straight towards you.
I'm gonna dodge the baton.
Not only do you dodge, you do a stunning and incredibly quick backstep out of the arc of the stun baton, and at the same time wrench your power maul free of the synth's grip.
So I'm going to take my power maul.
Do it.
Grip my shaft tightly.
Ooh, grip the shaft.
Grip the shaft, grip it.
So
and then
it's going to be fight versus fight once again. And that's a... Well,
this is a nightmare.
This went better in my head. So you swinging your power maul, once again you miss. The synth just takes a step back and your power maul misses because it was too ponderous. At the same time, the synth is going to use its ability called mind control. It's going to try and invade your systems.
I try and resist the hacking.
Okay, so the hack is successful. So in the back of your mind, you feel a strange compulsion to kneel down and surrender.
Well, wouldn't it be nice just to have a nice little rest on the ground here?
But for now, you can resist. You hear a dog barking and it's getting closer.
Light gun. I'm gonna attack the human guard.
Oh my fucking god, guys.
We are the most incompetent retrievers that have ever existed.
So you miss your shot.
It just fires a blank.
It crit fails right past it. To give you guys a slight boon, even though you got a 1, I'm going to say the pocket rocket hits the gate and knocks it open. The gate crit failed. Who would have thought? You can see now from around the corner of the wall a dog that looks heavily augmented appears, sort of skids around the corner, kicking up dirt as it slides, and then with drool like cascading out of its mouth, bounds towards your fight.
It's getting a little awkward now, mate.
So the synth, the human, slings his plasma rifle and turns to flee. The synth, meanwhile, takes another swing at Jack.
I dodge the baton again.
You not only do you dodge, but we'll give you a preemptive attack as well.
I am going to definitely hit it with my power maul, for real this time.
Okay, you hit it, you clonk it right on the face. The power of your hit caves in its skull and rotates it all the way so it's facing backward. And it staggers, looking backwards for a moment, and then shudders as its systems start to grind to a halt.
Now I'm sad.
And it collapses to the ground.
I am going to go after the human-looking guard.
So you're charging after him, you swing, but just light by a hair's width. Yeah, just misses him. It makes him flinch and therefore stumble.
Let's aim for the guard.
Aim for the guard.
I'm good with dogs.
You're good with
light gun at the guard.
Fuck.
You miss.
It sails past the guard and hits
Yes.
the dog in the skull.
No, you do not get to crit fail your way to success this time. So the guard, he uses his ability to continue to try and run towards the alarm, to raise the alarm. The dog is going to have a nom at you.
I'm gonna be nice to the dog. I'm gonna be, hey doggy.
Okay, the dog hasn't been shown love in a long time, so it hesitates as you start being nice to it because it wasn't expecting that, and the dog stops.
All right, so I'm gonna come up to the dog.
Yes,
Let it sniff my hand. I'm gonna try and
do it.
scratch its chin.
Okay, the dog doesn't chase you as you flee, and let's say you both cloak yourselves again to try and get out of here. Your mission has failed. The alarm was raised, and it'll be harder next time. But for now, you have at least cut your losses and saved some costs.
Yes, we saved lots of costs by running away.
So, AJ, you would need to perform minor surgery on yourself to heal that wound, but for now you don't need to.
I'm imagining our adventure freeze frames on us two running away with a horde of guards pouring out of the castle.
It fades to black and text appears on the screen telling us what happens next, just so we can get through the rest of the story. So it basically appears in Mohawk and Neil were never successful. And then it fades away and the next one appears is Cyrus went on to infect many more worlds other than this one. Eventually taking over Prime Earth as well. Wiping all of humanity.
All because someone didn't know how to grip the shaft properly.
And scene. Fuck's sake.
Oh, good lord. Well, while we kept rolling ones, it was that was quite a fun scenario.
Yeah,
I enjoyed failing.
The fact that you kept rolling ones certainly changed the game. It made it a lot harder than it was meant to be. Part of that is also we're using no holds barred, which is not really designed for what we were using it for. But because we infected it with Cyrus, we could make it a bit more into that. Other ways you could have approached that, you could have tried more persuading, use some dazzle skill. You could have both cloaked and tried to sneak past, maybe clamber over the wall with your clamber skills. Or you could have rolled not ones and killed both of the guards.
So in short, it's our fault.
Yes. Let's just say both of you don't have jobs anymore.
Hey look, we didn't ask for this, okay?
It's true. If you were the Venator instead of the CLO, you would have had full cloaks. You would be able to be complete. You probably would have swapped roles actually, because you would have been more AJ. You would have been more capable of sneaking. You would have had probably some kind of. You would have had a melee weapon as well, but it would have been more sort of katana styles.
Gotcha.
And you would have just tried to fuck them up sneaky styles.
Katana Styles is my stage name.
Steam name. And that's Cyrus.
Yay! Go Cyrus.
Claps.
Claps. That is just okay. AJ's joined in. I liked that. That was enjoyable.
Would you like to take us to commercial?
Yes. We're gonna go to commercial for a moment. So enjoy these wonderful messages from our equally wonderful sponsors.
I'm Sarah Beck for the U.S. Department of Agriculture with a quiz. Round steak is considered a good economy cut. True or false? True. Round steak is not quite as tender and juicy as some other cuts, but it has very little waste and can be made tender. Let the USDA quality grades be your guide to the right cooking method. For more free information, write How to Buy Meat, Agriculture Radio, Washington, D.C., 20250.
And welcome back. Duncan, what did you think of those commercials?
Jack, can I be honest? Can I be really just fucking frank? Because I am.
Please.
That has to be one of the single
Best.
fucking most
Excellent.
meat commercials I have ever. If I heard that on the radio, if I was listening to this podcast, I would call their 0800 contact center number, ask straight for
Those excellent deals.
and I would just fucking. I would.
Buy those products.
Those products are.
Beyond rebuke.
I could not agree more, Duncan. I'm 100% with you.
Yeah, it's same.
Excellent.
Anyway, that was... What's the name of that game again, Duncan?
That was Cyrus. Cybervirus.
Cyrus, cybervirus. Right. But we still have one more entry into this Thunderdome of RPG concepts, or Cyberdome of RPG concepts, and that is from our man AJ over here. So take it away.
Hello, I am AJ.
Hi, AJ.
Hi, AJ.
Alright, so my game is called Autotomy Cybernetics. I've got a little bit here I'm going to read out to get you in the zone for the world.
Give us some fluff.
2051. For decades now, humans have been altering and enhancing their mortal fleshy features with silicon and chrome. This age of freedom is a result of the visionary Gallius Apollo and his work in the last decade of the 20th century to perfect the link between man and machine. His work brought him to the creation of the autotomy implant, a subcranial computer installed alongside the motor cortex of the brain, allowing those gifted with it to become more than human, experiencing and shaping their world with sleek metals and biosynthetics in lieu of meaty appendages. Gallius Apollo has brought about the age of Autota Sapiens, where humankind can shed their biological limitations and rise to the level of ability that their ambitions will allow. Congratulations on your liberation from the mediocre. Use the offer code Gallius10 at checkout to receive 10 credits off your next purchase from Autotomy Cybernetics.
I love it.
That's our world.
Ooh,
When you were saying that, I just heard like 70s movie trailer like autotomy. Shed there. Yeah. Oh, love it.
Yeah.
Shed your meat.
So
flesh.
that's the world we're in.
Great.
Cast your mind to there.
Done.
Do you guys know what autotomy is? I put a lot of thought into this. It's the process where animals, like lizards, can shed their limbs on whenever they want.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's what autotomy is.
So in no way related to autonomy.
No. It is a different word.
What?
Autotomy.
There are different words?
There's more than one word.
Different things.
You really put the I in I3, Jack.
I do. Thank you. Wait a minute.
Alright, so Autotomy Cybernetics. Yeah, I think you've already got an idea of what kind of themes we're going for here. Classic cyberpunk themes. Corporatocracy, so worlds run by corporations, megacorps, including Autotomy Cybernetics, who also slightly function as a kind of church, who basically they're a corporation who's made a church, and the church is buy our products. So they're trying to encourage people to...
So a church.
Ooh. Heavy take.
Ooh, guys. I think our fundamentalist Christian audience is not going to enjoy that particular take.
Shit, and I just set up a whole marketing plan straight for them.
So corporatocracies, transhumanism, making yourself more than human with orgs and whatever else you want to use. So let's get into mechanics.
Okay.
So mechanics are, you've got different limbs and attachments that you can put on your body, and the different levels of those are the different levels of die. So D4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 20. So you'll have sort of a rubric for different arm or leg or whatever attachments, and it will indicate different kinds of dice you use for those ones. So instead of sort of just having, like in D&D, it's a D20 you roll all the time for those particular skills, and then you've got your bonus, which is, well, your stat, which is static, and then you just add those together. But in this one, you got your stat, which just stays whatever it is, and there are a couple of ways you can bump that up. But the main way you bump things up is by buying better tech from Autotomy Cybernetics and attaching better stuff to your arm. But they each have advantages, disadvantages for each area. What else did I have? So you kind of start with a base character, which human abilities run on D4s, so lowest possible die because you're a human. But they don't have, you can't crit fail on things you're doing biologically. So if you're just a human and you're trying to do stuff, you can't automatically fail on it. But you could not achieve your role in things.
Yeah.
But there isn't a crit fail, which the mechanical parts do. Alright, so you got your different body parts of the roles. As a human, you've got far less ability. You're not adding superhuman augmentations onto your different parts, but you can't completely fail. But there are manufacturer defects and things like that for the other weapons, and I want it to be really, really store-based, that you have to go and spend game currency to get better augmentations and things. So you can, the more expensive ones will be both more powerful and they're less likely to crit fail or malfunction. But you can pay more to then get better quality ones, so they're powerful and they don't malfunction. So it's all a trade-off. So you might have a really big goddamn gun, but if it fails 20% of the time, that's a huge risk to your operations.
So you might have let's say, a rocket launcher that gets you a D20.
Yeah,
in terms of damage.
Yep.
But if you roll a 1 to 5, that's a crit fail.
It's not on the same die because you get a problem with if you're using one of the smaller dies, like let's say it's something that just gives you a small buff, like D6, D8.
Yeah.
You're already up into very high percentages on those.
Of crit fails, yeah.
Yeah. So it was going to be you've got your dice that give you your stats for your weaponry, well, or your attachments, and then you separately roll percentile die, and then from that you can basically name any bracket you want. So it's more dice and more maths and stuff, but that was the way, if you've got smaller dice, so instead of making it a 1, because on a D6 that's a 1 in 6 chance, that seems kind of a bit too high. But if you use percentile dice, you can do the maths a lot easier with that on what values you need, what value of a crit fail is reasonable for this thing. And then it's not based on your stat dice. It's a separate roll.
And so with percentile die, would it just be the 10, 20, 30, 40, or would you go into 11, 12, 13%?
I want to get really granular.
Yeah.
Go with, you know...
So otherwise you would always have a minimum of like 10,
which is
1
already
in 10,
pretty high.
Which is already pretty high, yeah.
No, and if you're buying something like Militech, for example, something that the military use, which is really reliable, you want that to have a 2% or even just 1, some tiny percent.
Okay, cool, that makes sense.
But the trade-off of it, because you, if you buy a big goddamn gun early in the game and you've got a 20% chance of it malfunctioning, it can malfunction in either direction. So if you get, let's say it's 20%, you get 1 to 20, it malfunctions in a bad way. If it's 80 to 100, it malfunctions in a way you don't expect. So your plan doesn't quite, what you intended doesn't happen. But you get some kind of boon, you might say.
Some kind of boon, you say?
The boons and banes.
Original idea I came up with.
Yeah, I'm just going to mark it down on novelty there. Let me just scratch out that 10 and put 4.
So yeah, you get malfunctions on either end. So something you miss and a malfunction happens, or a malfunction happens and something good still happens. And I was thinking, if you get enough malfunctions on either end of it, so enough good things or enough bad things, you get something catastrophic. So let's say you get 5 malfunctions, the gun stops working, it blows up in your face, you lose health.
Okay. And when we're saying guns, we're actually meaning augments here, I assume.
I was going with both. Like, you can have ones that are attached to you, or you can have sort of an arm that helps you aim and gives you better reflexes, and then a gun on the end of that.
Right.
So you can sort of build guns on top of skills that your arms have.
Would that not then require you to roll for failure or success twice? So once for the reflexes in the arm, and then once to see if the gun works as intended?
Yeah, that's a good point. You would have to.
It would. I mean, that's not necessarily a bad thing, but then you're starting to deal with perhaps a little bit too much math.
And like too many chances of things going wrong if you have to roll for crit failure twice.
Yeah, and if you get a crit success, or not a crit success, but a beneficial failure on the arm, but like just a normal success on the gun, how do you resolve that?
Yeah, maybe.
So we're saying failure. So we're saying misses but in a good way with the hand, misses in a bad way with the gun. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
So it could be something like, so you shoot and you miss, but the bullet ricochets off a wall back towards your enemy's head, but by the time it gets there, it's lost all of its momentum, and it just feels like someone tapped him on the shoulder.
I mean, perhaps that's a...
You could get like that, but then that does get quite complicated.
Gets a bit wacky.
Yeah, I wonder then if failure is just sort of like roll on the whatever the final in the chain is. So if you've got shoulder plus bicep plus forearm plus hand plus gun, all like separate ogs, then you just roll for the gun as the final in the chain, because that would probably be the most streamlined. Or maybe you just have some kind of relevance discretion, like whatever is currently being the most used.
It could be a case of weaponry has a straight failure rate, whereas augments have maybe you just don't have a failure rate for augments unless you use them in a way that is not intended, or they're very cheap. So, for example, if you've got a gun that is designed to, if you have a shoulder and an arm that's designed to allow you to absorb more kickback from a very large gun, if you use it for that way, it's fine. It's been designed to do that. However, if you then use that same arm to punch someone, it's going to have a potential failure rate because it's not designed for that reason. So that allows you to have very specialized augments that you can potentially trash because you've for whatever reason you're not using them as intended. I really do like, but I actually really like that whole 2% chance of failure. But then when you start adding that into weaponry and other augments, and it also limits you in terms of how many augments you can have. Like, okay, I've got augmentic fingers.
Each one's
phalanges.
a different tool.
Yeah.
It gets a lot of percentage dice rolls very quickly.
So yeah, like make it based on what use you're putting it to.
Yeah.
Like maybe the augments have just a straight bonus for dexterity or aiming or something.
Yeah, maybe
unless you're using them to attack or really do something. If they're just assisting, you could just have a straight value towards your stats.
And if they are intended to be used as weapons, so you have big boy arms and they are designed to be fighting, then they can have a failure rate, but it's a lot lower than other, like say you got the reflex arm, you try and punch someone with it, it's got a 10% failure rate. But if you're using it to fire a gun, it has no failure rate whatsoever. Yeah,
that makes a lot of sense. So unless you're like trying to use it unless you're trying to apply its purpose, it doesn't. You're not risking anything because you're not really using that part of its features.
Yeah, and then in the item description, you can say this has X% chance of fail for this particular skill or stat. So if you're trying to use it for like a shoot stat, and it's got a 5% against shoot, but not against anything else, then using it against anything else won't fail, but shooting it could.
Yeah, no, that totally makes sense. As, that little small print manufacturing thing.
Yeah, it's the small print. That's what you could even call it.
Yeah.
Small print.
That's still thematically consistent.
That works.
Small print.
Yeah, I like that. So did you have any scenario you wanted us to play out with this?
I didn't, because this game I want to get really into the details with distances you can run and things like that.
Yeah,
and I just didn't have the time to work it out. It will be quite a big game.
So can you take us... We've gone pretty granular so far. Can we step back out of the sand, the nitty-gritties, and just start from like the top down? Let's say we're starting a game
Character creation and...
Yeah, let's start from character creation or scenario building, whatever logically comes first, and walk through the step by step.
So the scenarios, I was wanting to make it a heist kind of game because I like heists. Everyone likes heists. Very simple storyline. We're here, we're going to plan, we're going to get to a goal, and then stuff goes wrong as you're trying to get to it. Heists are a nice straightforward story that can go in a lot of directions. So make it heist-based. And also, because that's trying to gain credits and loot and stuff, you're basically just trying to pimp up your gear, get a better arm, all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, I love it.
So game's all about getting money in the end, basically. So you got your characters with their base stats. I hadn't figured out what the base stats should be out of. I was thinking maybe 6, because then you have a D4, and that makes it up to 10. But I don't know. It doesn't really matter. You got your base stat, and then you got your stuff on top of it. All sorts of different stuff for stats like strength, dexterity, stealth, speed, all your standard sort of things.
Yeah, I think standard.
I hadn't figured out how to spend points, but one thing I was thinking, it could be your like in the Matrix, you're downloading Kung Fu or something like that. Is you buy programs and you can chip them into your head, and those are temporary. So you get particular skills, or you can have advantage on if you're doing something in hand to hand or against someone else who has Kung Fu or something. You can have advantage on that, but they're temporary, so you can swap them out, change it for the next mission. But have something like if you roll enough times using those skills, you do start to learn it, and you permanently get a bonus from it.
Cool.
If you roll it 10 times or something. So,
yeah,
because I'm sure you would if you just had something that implanted the knowledge in you. If you engage with it enough, you'd actually gain that knowledge.
You know what would be fun? This is sort of an aside, but I thought of it and I thought it might be a bit of fun, because you've got this failure chance already built into the game. What if when you're downloading programs, they come with ads? And so if you like fail, maybe your mind, you just like your eyes cut out and you see like an ad, a commercial for something.
That could be one of the crit failures.
Yeah, you're like taken out of an action basically because you watch a commercial for like Coke.
Oof, that didn't go well. Upgrade to Kung Fu 2 for only 25 credits.
It's the Microsoft paperclip is like, you need some help there?
Looks like you're trying to rob a bank. Can I help you with that?
I do like that. That's really, really good.
Yeah, let's add that in.
So we've gone through sort of character creation. We're getting our generic stats.
Yeah. So it's all spending money. You buy programs which give you your baseline stats, which you can then earn as permanent stats You can get more base programs later to bump them even more, and you spend money on orgs and weapons.
Okay, so one of the things that is very, very cyberpunk is the transhumanist kind of perspective and the idea of when you first start out, you kind of just replace your arm because you need a better arm, and then eventually you end up with like implanted mantis blades, and you can fly, and your entire jaw can pull off so that you can feed yourself an entire hamburger at once.
Implying I can't already.
Like stuff like that, and it reaches
2 hamburgers,
and it reaches the point because in Cyberpunk. The Cyberpunk 2022, I think, was the original one. I'm just thinking of Cyberpunk
2020 is like the follow-up to the original.
So in the Cyberpunk universe, there's this idea of cyber-psychosis, where you take too many augments on and you basically go insane. And cyber-psychosis is a major reason why there are so much death in the Cyberpunk universe, that and the fact that humanity is just completely devalued.
Yeah, because in that you have empathy and humanity points.
Yes.
And you lose those as you add more stuff to you, and bigger stuff that takes away more of your humanity costs more. And I think you can go to therapy and stuff in that game. You can like go to rehab for getting orgs on your body, and then there's a body farm where they can put human parts back on you to bump it back down. It's a weird game.
Yeah,
I haven't played it, but I had a good read through the rules. It's interesting.
I really want to. Honestly, I have never actually played a game of tabletop Cyberpunk, but I really want to. Like, it would be really cool. But is there an opportunity for us to introduce that? Because it, like with the Autotomy, when you've got that as a baseline title, removing parts, adding parts, is there an opportunity for us to introduce cyber-psychosis as a reason to maybe avoid upgrading?
I did think about it, but number one, the game's already bogged down with a lot of stuff. And I don't know, I wanted to be a bit more swashbuckling and going on for a fun heist, and I knew we needed some kind of reason to not just keep upgrading massive, which is where I brought the manufacturing faults and things like that in. So that's why I chose instead of cyber-psychosis, because I just wanted to be a fun bunch of buddies going on a heist.
Cyberpunk
and not have to worry about one of them going, cyber-psychotic in the middle and just start shooting up the bank. But maybe that could be something really specific in the failure roles. It does something to you.
If you've got like a brain augmentation of some kind, maybe one of the fails of that sort of thing is that you temporarily go nuts, or you can't tell friend from foe, or you go schizophrenic for a bit, sort of stuff.
So we can have some of that theme in there. I didn't want to make it a major thing you were keeping track of in the game, though. Just not the mood I was going to go for.
Okay.
So you make it more of a fast shooting, let's go kind of heist.
Wait, wrong game. So you were intending for a as you say, a swashbuckling kind of
buckle some swash,
but buckling that swash good and proper.
Yeah.
But with Cyberpunk, which is traditionally not necessarily a swashbuckling kind of game, but there should be a version.
Always, but thinking about making yourself superhuman, being able to jump 10 meters in the air, I wanted to keep it fun.
Yeah, definitely.
Didn't want to have the really gritty character stuff come in.
The political stuff.
Yeah,
and
like have that building up the world and the reason you're going in and doing stuff as your motivations, but not have have the players drive the characters themselves instead of having a stat that says you are this much angry at everyone or you are going this much crazy. Because why can't I choose based on what's happening to my character?
Okay.
Yeah. So you could have it as some kind of alignment particular characters can have, but I don't know. I didn't want to keep track of it.
Yeah, this is actually a point to make for this isn't going to be a funny bit. So sorry for people who listened for our shit jokes.
Nobody listens for
no
our
one
jokes.
listens for our jokes, but that is actually a common dichotomy in RPG games where you have to decide how much you stat stuff and how much you let the player decide via their character, and there really is no correct answer. Some people like to be able to say, well, I have Vampire the Masquerade, I have lost this much humanity and thus I'm this close to unleashing the beast, and like
Call of Cthulhu insanity builds up.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But that's part of the point of the game. So if it's built into like mechanically and story-wise what it's about, then it totally has its place. I just didn't want to focus on that.
Yeah, that's the thing.
It's been done.
In those games, it's not just a gimmick, it's part of the fabric. If we added it into this, it could be just sort of there for the sake of being there.
It's the humanity or the insanity thing.
And you've set yourself up to be able to add it in as a crit fail if you wanted, which is cool. But as you say, I think allowing the context of why you're heisting, what you're heisting, because if you don't want to do bank vault, you could say like some kind of like shipping port that's run by the big corporation, and you're all like super poor, and then you've got the rich and poor divide that's very common in Cyberpunk. And that's where you get that's where you can have all that alignment and stuff coming in. It's all role play instead of
absolutely
numbers, which is super cool. The heist is actually a really good scenario for Cyberpunk to allow you to show that divide, because you can then you've instantly got your villain of the big corporation.
Oh yeah, set up characters real quick. Like look at the trailer of Cyberpunk 2077. It's basically a heist. It's a two-man heist where they're going in and trying to get the robots. And they immediately set up Dexter Deshawn and what Militech are doing, and the fact it's corpos that are really pulling the strings, and then the underbelly with cyber-psychosis. It sets up everything really fast. So, yeah, that's why I went for heists. You get all the dynamics real quick about who you're robbing, why you're robbing them, who are you working for.
Love it.
All those details. I also I did some, I call them autoto limbs, because I haven't figured out anything else yet. Like, just some examples of particular kind of ones you can have.
Oh, so we're being handed sheets of paper.
Yeah, this might all get cut, but I made them, so I wanted to.
I do like a good heavy penetration forearm.
Oh, is that what yours is called?
Heavy penetration forearms. No, the specialist, is that a class or is that a
just special things about this particular item?
Jackhammer. When used in melee attack, heavy penetration forearms can be used in jackhammer mode.
I'm glad you gave this to Jack. So
landing multiple small blows instead of a single large hit.
Oh, cool.
User rolls 44 instead of a single d10 and has disadvantage on defense rolls from other enemies for their turn.
So cool. I've got sprint blades.
Yeah.
So AJ, I'm looking at a table that has a number of stats, and beneath each stat's a dice. Am I right to say that if I wanted to use my sprint blades for strength, I would use, in this case, a D8. Whereas if I was using them for speed, it would be a D12.
Yep.
Right. And every...
Because, makes sense, doesn't it? If they're built for speed, you do that. If you're built for strength, then it's...
Right. So I can dig in a strength check involving legs. Oh, I just got what a sprint blade is. I'm like thinking I'm still stuck on Mantis claws.
Oh, right.
I'm like thinking of actual weapons. No, you're
thinking of Kingsman, the... Was it the second? No, it was the first one. Kingsman. In that, she's got the bladed feet.
Yeah, I'm thinking like Deus Ex, and you've got these like blades built into their arms. You're talking about the spring feet.
Yes, like actual Paralympians have.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. I was way off. So the user can... So if I do a strength check involving my legs, I can dig in my heels, moving me up a die for the... Oh, so that's why I can move from D6 to D8. That's cool.
Yeah.
So the natural for this is D6, but if I dig my heels in, I can get a D8 instead.
Yep.
Cool. So, and I don't take fall damage, portal styles. That's pretty cool.
Oh yeah, damage was a whole thing I maths for. Let's not do that today though. That's a whole other page.
Oh god.
And I had a augmetic thumb.
Of course you did.
It's an articulated thumb containing a laser pointer, allows the user to give a really hardcore thumbs up, impressing those around you, making them easier to win over on charisma checks. Yeah.
AJ listens to me.
User has advantage for strength checks during thumb war combat turns. Can only be acquired after completing the Chimp's Choice side quest.
I was gonna say, is it also detachable very easily? So you don't.
It can be inserted to the crotch instead of that.
Dear. I love it.
Okay. Do you have any closing statements for this game, or are we ready to go to the final cyber countdown?
Let's get to points.
Points.
And you know what points mean? Points mean absolutely nothing at all.
I have my hopes up so high.
So, for Duncan's Cyrus cyber virus, for design, and all of these are out of 10, by the way, with the exception of the requirement and the bonus, which is out of 3 for the bonus, and the requirement is just a tick.
Well, we don't have a bonus today. We've only got the requirement, don't we?
Oh, I'm giving people bonuses.
Go for it.
Right.
Yes, please.
You do you.
For design, you got a 7 out of 10.
Ooh, that's not bad.
I liked the idea of being able to apply it to multiple different universes without it becoming too... without it overriding the existing universe when we're playing through the scenario. It was still very much a no-holds-barred game, just with extra stuff. I think if it would be possible for us to find a way to make it more less DM dependent, like the thing is that in something like D&D, for example, there is a rule for nearly everything, but DMs can choose to ignore those rules and homebrew. What we've kind of done the opposite with Cyrus, where a lot of it is down to the DM's discretion to how it works, which could make it quite difficult for people who are perhaps new.
Yeah.
But that's why you didn't get a full 10 out of 10. But 7 is still really good.
7 is admirable.
And
I'll take it.
And I will say, if something is average, I will give it a 5 out of 10. I don't do that bullshit IGN stuff where they're like, it's okay, 8 out of 10.
Oh, yeah.
For AJ's Autotomy, it got a 9 out of 10.
Woohoo! Big old points.
Big points.
Those are big daddy points.
Purely because I appreciate the amount of design work that has gone into that. Not to say that Duncan's didn't, but there was a significant amount of thought. You clearly had done your research into what cyberpunk is in terms of me mentioning cyber-psychosis, which is not a niche part of the universe, but is not something that someone who doesn't know what cyberpunk is would know what that is. So
yeah,
and I like the idea of the significant part of the mechanics being based around removing or adding limbs, which is super cyberpunk.
Yeah.
Novelty. Cyrus, Cybervirus, also gets a 7 out of 10.
Double 7.
Not for real any... I didn't detract points, but there was no point in there where I was like, oh, that's brand new, that's like fresh, I've never thought of that kind of thing before. People applying and mixing and matching stuff across various universes is an existing thing, but you did it very well, so it was a 7 instead of a 5.
I like that, a nice little lore behind it, that you're Dimension Police.
Yeah,
lore.
That's cool. I really like that.
It
so
was
quite
novel.
police. You're like Dimension Cleanup Crew, but just for a cyber virus.
Yeah, there's no law here. There's no justice here. It's literally just we lost some tech.
The company needs to balance the
back.
books.
Yeah, exactly.
And Neil will balance it.
Neil is here to keep the costs down. Mitigate those risks, Neil.
And for AJ's Autotomy, it was also 7 out of 10. The mechanics that you use, the D4, D6, D8, and D10, have you played Savage Worlds?
No, I haven't.
That is an RPG that basically uses that exact thing. For all skills, it just says as you level up, you get a D4 to a D6 to a D8, D10. It's an established kind of thing, and a few other places do it. So again, that's why it's not 10 out of 10, but still 7 out of 10 done well. For Cyrus the Cybervirus, funness, 9 out of 10. Ooh. Because it sounds super fucking fun. The
fact we were having quite a good time rolling ones over and over.
Yes.
I think if everything can go wrong and it's still a good time, that's got to mean it's fun.
And for me, it was a case of if I'm a GM and I'm bored of the current campaign, or my players are bored of the campaign, or they want to just do something a bit different, I can just instantly be like, oh yeah, Cyrus the Cybervirus. That's a thing now. You've got a brand new adventure that you will never have done before. You'll get access to some cool abilities that maybe I'll let you keep a little bit of after all of this is done, or maybe you're just sick of your campaign entirely and you just want to kind of see it from a... It's like a crossover episode, and I like crossover episodes.
Crossovers are cool.
I love it. For Autotomy, also 9 out of 10. It sounds goddamn fun.
It does.
I like... The reason I picked Cyberpunk is because I like Cyberpunk. And any game that makes me want to be like, yeah, let's get into it right now, gets a good score.
Autotomy sounds like a game you can sink some teeth into, which we don't often have here on this podcast. We often do very sort of quite light one-shots. But there's enough to sink... Actually, like having no maths is fun, but having some allows you to actually really think and and then the crit chance as well, like having things possibly fail. I love it. Yeah, you can bite it.
Oh, thank you guys, thank you.
For the requirement, both of you just yes. They're both
yes out of 10.
Yes out of 10.
Yes.
You both get ticks. They're both cyberpunk. They fulfilled what is required of cyberpunk in the case like corporatism, to the point of anti-capitalism. So the political stuff is ticked off. You've got the cybernetic enhancements. You've got the explicit use of transhumanism. They're both very cyberpunk. Not enough mohawks. And finally, I am awarding bonus points for Duncan.
Bonus points.
These are simply because I like the amount of work that you guys went into this, and you guys really tried real hard. Duncan gets a 2. AJ, however, does get a 3 because he knew what cyber-psychosis is.
Motherfucker.
I did slightly more Googling than Duncan.
Yeah. Hey, man, that's all we do. So, I'm going to have to do some very quick maths here.
He's 4 up than me.
4 up. Okay. Yeah. 35 out of technically 43, but we'll say 40.
40, it's out of 40.
35 out of 40.
That's good.
For Cyrus Cybervirus.
And the next one's 38.
And AJ's Autotomy, after some very excellent maths from myself, gets a 38 out of 40. And
love it.
Points!
I don't think it's fleshed out as it needs to be for us to start playing a long-term campaign, but it could very easily be. I could see a full manual of that being developed.
Hardback, good artwork, some scenarios built in.
Yeah. It's going to be good.
Lovely.
Cool. So our winner for today is Autotomy from Mr. AJ. Thank you for the suggestion, and thank you both for creating with me.
Thank you so much for watching, listening, for watching with your ears. I'm going to start again. Thank you so much for listening to our podcast. I hope you had a lot of fun. Tune in next time for AJ hosting an episode themed around D8s and raccoons. So look forward to all your favourite celebrity raccoons next episode, presented by Jack and Duncan. Give us some likes on social. Listen to more episodes. We'll see you in a month.